Already, I've been sitting here for 30 seconds. Got a suit. Mark, you listening to all that?
Are we on, Rod?
I just recorded it.
Are we on?
Are we on, Rod?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna start. Are we gonna start? Yes, we're gonna start.
Yes.
Good evening, Washington Courthouse. It is July 27th, 2022, time at 7:30 PM, time for our second regular meeting of the month. At this time to start, Ms. Hernandez will do the invocation and Mr. Schultz will lead us in the pledge. If you would stand, please.
Please join me in prayer. Dear Lord, be with us tonight as we gather and work to move our city forward. Let us be in the right mind and spirit as we make our decisions that affect our neighbors, friends, family, and our community. Always remind us of your ways and let us always love our neighbor as we love ourselves. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Bryant.
Chrisman,
Here.
Hawk,
Here.
Hernandez,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Schultz,
Here.
Blair,
Here.
Litch.
Here, thank you. We need to approve the minutes from the regular council meeting on July 13th, 2022. Does anyone see anything that needed to be changed, etc.? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll move that we accept the minutes from the 7/13/2022 as written.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Litch.
I will abstain and thank the council for excusing me while I was in South Carolina. I appreciate it and appreciate the vice chair handling things
You're
here.
quite welcome.
Okay, we go to communications, Mr. Denon.
None.
And report of council committees, service, safety, and recreation. Mr. Hawk, will you read that report, please?
The Service, Safety, and Recreation Committee met in the council chambers located at 105 North Main Street on Wednesday, July 13, 2022 at 6 p.m. Ted Hawk presided, and those in attendance were Mr. Caleb Johnson, council member, Ms. Kendra Hernandez, council member, Mr. Steve Schultz, council member, Mr. Jim Blair, council member, Mr. Jeff Venari, police chief, Mr. Tim Downing, Fire Chief, Mr. Ron Sockman, Service Department Superintendent, Mr. Joe Denon, City Manager, Mr. Mark Pitstick, City Attorney, and Mr. Hugh Barnhill, citizen. Mr. Hugh Barnhill, a resident, addressed the committee and requested support of the continuation of the trail from Washington Courthouse to the Shaw Wetland area. Mr. Barnhill noted other areas that remain to be connected to other counties from Washington Courthouse. The committee noted their support. The committee recommended that the subject be placed on the next Safety, Service, and Recreation Committee for continued discussion. The committee benefited from a general report of the Washington Fire Department. Chief Downing noted the testing dates for entry-level, captain, and lieutenant personnel. Number 3, Chief Downing updated the committee regarding an inspection that was completed at a business located on Oak Street. Number 4, the committee benefited from a general report of the Washington Police Department. Chief Venari noted that patrol officer interviews would be held within the week. Number 5, Chief Venari noted that conversations had begun with the superintendent of schools regarding safety improvements. Number 6, the committee benefited from a general report of the Washington Service Department. The committee noted that preliminary designs for the Lakeview Avenue project were close to completion. Mr. Sockman noted that project bids would be submitted at the next Safety Service meeting. Number 7, the committee recommended that legislation be brought to council amending codified ordinance section 93.06 duty to keep sidewalks in repair and clean. Number 8, the committee recommended that legislation be brought to council recommending the purchase of a Vermeer BC 1800 XL brush chipper, not to exceed $82,000. Number 9, the committee recommended that legislation be brought to council for the state purchase of 2 Ford F-250 trucks, 1 Ford F-150 truck, and 1 Ford Transit vehicle for the service department. Number 10, the committee recommended legislation be brought to council recommending that the city continue contracting with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the repairs and resurfacing of US Route 62 within the city limits. Number 11, the administration advised the committee of destruction and misuse of play equipment at the splash pad. The administration noted that extra police patrol was currently being used to help eliminate the misconduct, but a part-time employee may be an alternative option for the future. Respectfully submitted, Mr. Ted Hawk, Chairperson, Service Safety and Recreation Committee, Mrs. Kelly Ford, Recording Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Hawk. Any questions or discussion or comments?
Did the article get in the paper? Did I miss it?
I don't think so, Kendra. I'll talk to them about that again.
Because I was planning on sharing that, but I
I
haven't
don't
seen
think
it.
it has.
Okay. About the splash pad.
Yeah.
That is frustrating. Is that what you wrote an article or something? Ken?
Well, no, I
No,
asked
we
for an
did.
article to be written,
Oh,
so
okay.
then that we all who are on Facebook could share it, and hopefully citizens would then become kind of the patrollers, you know,
Themselves.
of each other.
Yes, that's
That
a good
is
point.
ridiculous.
What was the dollar amount of damage down there? Do we know yet?
$20,000.
About 20,000, that's what I
Gee.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, anything else? Kendra, that's a great suggestion. I hope it gets in. Okay, we need to approve it. Roll call, please.
What?
You got a motion
Gotta
second.
approve.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
I was going.
I'll second it.
I'm
All right,
sorry.
we'll keep you straight.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we have a motion and a second. Mr. Bryan, could you give us a roll call?
Chrisman.
Yes.
Hawk.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Okay, city manager, your report.
Yeah. Kendra who made the second?
I
Mr.
was
Schultz.
first, second. Johnson
Kendra
was
and
second.
Steve, I wrote, but it was.
I got all
Caleb?
those. Oh, I said second before him.
Oh, okay.
And then you laughed at it.
Kendra and Caleb.
Yeah, change
Okay,
it to
I'm
Johnson.
sorry.
I think we both said about the same thing.
Yeah.
so
That's fine, give it to
All right,
Caleb.
yeah, give it to Johnson. That's fine.
Good evening, everybody. East Street would like to thank folks for their cooperation with that repair and resurfacing work that we've done down there. It's turned out very nicely. We do have the old chipper back in repair. We still want to purchase an additional one though. But you may see the service department out using that. Then I want to compliment, recently I was at a meeting of the Union Township Zoning Board. I thought the members of the board dealt with a very contentious situation regarding a proposed solar farm at Old 35 and Yeoman Road in an exceptionally professional manner. Certainly that is in the township, it's not in the city, and would like to stress that it is the township's business. However, it is in close proximity to the city. We received notice of the zoning hearing in the appropriate fashion, and I attended, and anything like that can be very emotional, it can be very difficult. My observations were that the conduct of the zoning board was exemplary. The company, their presentation, usually, you know, I'm the person on the side of development, and sometimes when that development is not very popular. In this case, the conduct of the company was, I thought, incredibly disappointing. And in particular, I would like to point out at one point that they said that all of the electric that gets generated by their solar development would be consumed by the city of Washington Courthouse. The world that I live in works on an electric grid, and you put power generated by a solar array in the grid, And saying that it is going to be consumed by the City of Washington Courthouse would be factually incorrect. The City of Washington Courthouse has had no contact with Yaratech, nor in the numerous visits that they claim that they made to the community have we had any other correspondence or discussions with them. I was also disappointed by the suggestion that, with increasing development that there'll be increasing electric demand that this solar array could help alleviate, which I suppose is factually true. I would like to state that in 19 plus years of being city manager, the Dayton Power and Light Corporation or its successor AES has never looked at me and said, this won't work here because we cannot supply enough electric. That has never occurred. I would also like to remind everybody that there is a comprehensive land use development plan for Fayette County that the City of Washington Courthouse participated in with all the townships and all the villages. And while it is in broad brushstrokes, it is still a guide for development that is quite valid for anybody to take a look at. And the third thing, the current zoning of that property is agricultural. I was surprised that it didn't come up at the meeting that a solar panel isn't agricultural. It's made out of steel, aluminum, and some glass, and the magic goo in between the glass. It's not a cow, not a corn plant, not a soybean, not a chicken, not a hog. So calling that agricultural or submitting that as a conditional use in an agricultural district, I found to be an enormously interesting intellectual leap. But again, want to compliment Union Township and reinforce our support for whatever decision that they choose to proceed with. New legislation tonight, you got quite a lot of it. You had the requested ordinance about the duty to keep sidewalks in repair and clean, which basically boils down to you're not allowed to get it covered over with grass and whatever vegetation that you may think is great. You had this US 62 legislation that was already referenced in the committee report. You allow us to proceed with purchase of a pickup truck from John Hinderer Ford, and we're incredibly proud to be able to do business of that nature with a local merchant. You have a second piece of legislation that essentially accomplishes the same thing with John Hinderer Ford, and then an F-150 from John Hinderer Ford and a Ford Transit. Again, pleased as punch, the folks at John Hinderer Ford have been lovely to work with. And again, incredibly proud to be able to do that with a local automobile dealer. And then also with a local equipment dealer, we are acquiring a brush chipper from Vermeer, and the folks at Vermeer have always been incredibly supportive and easy to work with. And in this case, in particular with the chipper, they have gone above and beyond the call of duty to ensure that we have the equipment that we need to discharge our duties to the residents of Washington Courthouse. And you have a resolution accepting the recommendation of the Tax Incentive Review Committee, which is an annual meeting that occurs that is prescribed by the Ohio Revised Code. That simply reviews tax incentive agreements. Over the years, a lot of those have shifted to an income tax-based incentive agreement as opposed to a traditional property tax agreement or TIF agreement. But that meeting is prepared and put together by Godwin over at the county, and we have that legislation for you. And that concludes my report for tonight.
Do I have any questions for Mr. Denon?
I've got one question. You mentioned.
You already had one.
That's true. I might have another.
Okay.
You had mentioned that DP&L supplies all the electricity. That was my understanding, but I do remember one time where it was brought up to council that there was concerns about electrical production whenever, particularly one, I'm not sure if it was an individual or a company of some sort, wanted to make some sort of cryptocurrency mining operation.
Cryptocurrency mining operations can be enormously can consume enormous amounts of electricity. You wouldn't think that it would, but you pack stuff inside of a building and that can be it can use more than an industrial process very easily.
All electricity in development would ultimately be the responsibility of the electric provider. Is that correct?
Yes.
So they would be able to do that?
In that case, it may cause, if you, with one user out of the clear blue sky, consume that much load, it may be that you're in a delayed situation that slows down other stuff while they catch up building out their network or grid to accommodate that.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else? Yes.
I don't have a point to this question, but I'm just curious
Okay.
about how the solar panels that we have at the water treatment plant, how that's worked out. And
It's
if we
worked
get-
out by and large pretty decent for us. Now, we have taken them offline and have informed the company that they need to make repairs to them. But it worked wonderfully for some time, Ted, but the company has been rather lax in making a set of repairs that we are not aware of what is wrong. But we disconnected that a while ago and they need to fix that, and then we will be happy to have it reconnected and go on the way we were. But in that scenario, it is them losing money, not us. And why they have not been motivated to go out and repair that, I don't know.
Okay.
Just
Thank you.
recently, there was a news show, might have been 60 Minutes, talking to an architect in California that had put panels on his house,
Uh-huh.
designed 3 or 4 other houses with panels, all from the same company. In 3 years, they were junk.
Mhm.
So I mean, so that's one of my concerns with it. It's kind of off the subject, but
Yeah, if I was a pessimist, I would say in our situation, company took advantage of a federal tax credit,
you know,
and now they don't want to invest money in fixing their piece of infrastructure, because essentially they've then sold on the federal tax credit, and that's why that they're not particularly motivated, because in terms of revenue generated for them, it never going to be a huge ball of fire money.
I was just concerned about some people that will buy them from some of the salesperson that probably used to sell siding and storm windows and water softeners and all that good stuff.
You talking about your career, Jim? That-
Well, we survived. Most of them are gone. They're crooked
Okay.
ones. Boy, there was a bunch of them. There was a company in Cincinnati about 6 years ago or so, 7 years, selling reverse osmosis units for $4,000. We sell them for $695 installed, and it cured cancer.
Really?
The state did crack down on that one, thank God. I mean, that's just, of course, they're in every business. Snake oil. That's what they call it, Rod. Snake oil. Yes, sir.
Anything
Okay,
else?
that's all I had. Thank you.
One last question, actually. I promise let's move on.
Well, you're up to 3 now.
I am beyond my quota. You mentioned the sidewalk ordinance,
Mhm.
and I had read, I did not notice this before, but I did notice this going through it, that now section D states that this will be a 4th-degree misdemeanor. I believe the current one is a minor misdemeanor. Does the city have a preference for potential 30 days in jail for these people, or?
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Well, if it remains to be the M4, then
That's how it was drafted. It's
Okay.
up to council to decide whether or not council wants it to be a minor misdemeanor or an M4.
I think I will, I would prefer, and I probably will, move to amend that back to a minor misdemeanor. As wonderful as Vernon's new jail is, I don't think that there's any need for,
Well, just so everybody knows, trash complaints, failure to pay your taxes, M4s. We have never put anybody in jail for not filing your income tax or cleaning up your trash. So, it's entirely up to council to decide how council wants to view this, but, it was put in there to add a little bit of teeth to the ordinance in order to make, hopefully, the violators, feel more uncomfortable about the situation.
Can I add to his third question?
Sure.
There's, in the first sentence of that ordinance, that in the second line it refers to keeping curbs or gutters in repair and free from snow and ice. That's almost impossible on Western Avenue, because that's where all the snow off the highway gets thrown. And you cannot keep that stuff clear unless you throw it on something else that shouldn't have snow and ice on it. So that's kind of in conflict. I don't know how we could ever enforce that one. Because you can clean so you almost have a heart attack, and then a plow will come along and throw it right back on your work that you just finished.
Get your blower blood across the street. That's what I do.
Joe, to the next one.
Yeah. It'll melt come spring. All we forgot.
I was gonna say that if you go through town, and Ron could probably speak to this better than I could, there's an awful lot of streets where sidewalks are basically covered with grass. And I particularly drove down Broadway the other day, and there would be some major cleaning of grass off the sidewalks on that street. I'm not opposed to it, but boy, there's some streets where, or sidewalks, I should say, where there's a lot of grass on sidewalks. It's almost grass.
Particularly those old brick ones.
Yeah.
A few of those around town.
Anyway,
They get hosed.
And once they spray them, it comes right back, and they're really nice, and most of them are actually, believe it or not, in pretty good order. Now, there's some where the tree roots have
Yeah.
created the upheaval, and sometimes they scrub those and concrete them back, but actually, when we got several of those, especially along South Fayette, and those are just beautiful sidewalks. Once they do a Roundup or whatever product you put on, you want to put
Yeah.
on it, and they bring those brick back, they're actually quite nice. We've actually had several, actually have dug some of those up and laid some sand and re-put the bricks back, because they preferred that as opposed to the concrete.
and I assume that would be our first step, was to tell people.
Oh, absolutely. This is, again, in response, there was a request by
Yeah.
one of the council members to have this in response to the issue on paint
Yeah,
in North. So this was what came after.
Yeah. And I guess my understanding is that we're not, the police department or whoever's not gonna go around and start inspecting sidewalks. It's
No.
only if they get a complaint from a neighbor
Well, the
or
police
somebody in the
department's never gonna be involved with
You know,
this.
I have to say, because
Never.
it's gonna be,
Never.
so this really is a thing only, it's gonna only come up if a neighbor complains enough.
yeah, okay. Mrs. Collins, the finance director, or director of finance, as it says, you are up.
Thank you. Well, I'm happy to report that the city continues to be fiscally sound and moving forward, making progress. That's good. In our general fund, we currently have a balance of $2.9 million. And we're actually ahead of schedule on collecting taxes for the amount that was budgeted for the whole year. If we continue in the pace we're going, that we should have collected what we budgeted by next month and then continue on from there. Our investments, we have money invested in Star Ohio, and for the month of June, we actually had a dividend income of $3,300, which is really good for them. That's usually around maybe $200 or $300. So I think that's about all, unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Christina. Mr. Pitstick, do you have a report?
Well, given all the rain, we're still mowing a lot of yards. I think we mowed probably 35 or 40 last week. We continue to assess with Christina's help on property taxes. I don't have a figure today, but I can get a figure for the first meeting in August.
Okay.
It's a considerable amount. We can't hardly keep up, actually.
You know, it brings up a good question. It goes on the property tax. Does the city get any of that money back, or how's that work?
We get most of the money back. I believe there's a 10% fee that the county charges. But other than that, we get the money back from the property taxes. Or before we actually assess the property taxes, we send the homeowner, the owner of record, who is on the tax duplicate, and we send them a bill. And a large percentage, 20–25% of the time, we will get a check from them for the payment of the mowing expense.
When we go out and mow these yards, are they people that own the property living there, or are they rental property?
Both.
So when you bill, the $250 has to go to the property owner.
Yes.
And if his tenant isn't mowing it, or he isn't seeing that it's getting mowed, he's gonna have to take some action.
We're gonna have to take the action.
We hope that's the case.
We do.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for any of those? Okay. Well, unlike our last three meetings, it's pretty empty out there.
Oh, yeah.
I should have had all these people over in the other room come over just so we had somebody to look at. But anyway, we'll go on to legislation. First of all, that which has been previously introduced. And the only one that is ordinance number 7, 2022, third reading.
I'll make a motion to place ordinance number 7, 2022 on third reading.
I'll second that.
Discussion. Roll call.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Ordinance number 7-2022, third reading, an ordinance rezoning lots 606 through 609 inclusive Gregg Street from R2 two-family residential district to R3 multifamily residential district.
Move for passage.
Second.
And roll call.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Now into new legislation. Ordinance number 8, 2022, first reading.
I'll move we put ordinance number 8, 2022 on first reading.
Second.
Discussion.
I would like to amend ordinance number 8, 2022, to reflect a minor misdemeanor in section D rather than a fourth degree misdemeanor.
One of you attorneys, explain to me the difference, please.
A minor misdemeanor has 0 days of potential jail time and a maximum fine of $150. A fourth degree misdemeanor has a potential max jail time of 30 days and a potential max fine of $250. Whenever you put an M4 and someone gets charged with an M4, additionally, one thing that we would think about is that only on an M4 and above, because there's a potential for jail time, we must provide indigent people an attorney at the cost to the people. So to have an M4, potentially, if someone cannot afford an attorney, we would then be paying for their attorney on top of it. If you do a minor misdemeanor, they would not have the right to an attorney because there's no potential jail time.
Well, until that regime down the street changes, ain't nobody going to go to jail for not cleaning the grass off their sidewalk.
I would love that. I would love that. And since they're not, I think that that's our indication that maybe we should just make it a minor misdemeanor.
Okay, so you're making a motion to amend, Caleb?
Yes.
Do we have a second to Caleb's motion?
I have a question.
Good.
So, how often do you perceive this happening, like going that far?
Like, once or twice a year, maybe. I don't see, I don't see us having that big of an issue with this ordinance, because the only time that we're going to go out and actively enforce this is if someone, the neighbor, calls and says, oh, by the way, I don't like the way my neighbor is keeping his or her sidewalks.
So that's you or Rod, or both?
Well, I'm not gonna go out,
So it'd be Rod. Okay,
sorry to say, but yeah, it would be.
well, that's why I wanted to make sure
And
we
then,
understood.
you know, he's gonna go out, and he's gonna ask them very kindly, we've got a complaint, we want you to take and clean up your sidewalks, do it. And by the way, you need to do this, this, and this. And I'll be back in a couple of weeks, or a week, or 10 days, or whatever. And I would very much appreciate it that you had this complete.
Okay, so why did you choose the penalty that you chose?
The reason I did is because community service. You know, you can have a $50 fine and no jail, but if you have the possibility of jail hanging over someone's head, you can also have 10 hours of community service, of which you can say, go out and clean up your sidewalks. That was part of my concept, is I have a little bigger stick to deal with cleaning up the sidewalks, getting the trash or getting the grass, whatever it may be, off the sidewalks. And I don't know, I'm never gonna get in jail for any of this.
Right.
Now, Caleb is right. You know, he's right where it says that under ordinary circumstances, a person who is charged with an M4 misdemeanor is entitled to a court-appointed attorney. However, the judge has the ability to say, we're not gonna give any jail sentence in this particular case. He can say that you can have public service work, and it would be within limits, of course. You wouldn't have 300 or 400, but you could have 10 or 15 or 20 public service hours to go out and clean up your sidewalk. And that was basically my reason. I'm limited with a minor misdemeanor to a $150 fine. Somebody comes in and pays a $150 fine, they go out, we're done.
And they still don't have to clean up their sidewalk.
No, we have to do it again.
So what do you foresee, how often you foresee this becoming that big of a deal?
Not
Don't
often.
most people usually work with you?
Yeah, not often, Kendra, and it's in keeping with some of the other ordinances we have. And I'm kind of like Mark, it just kind of shows, and I think even to the judge, that we're kind of serious about that. If we brought this to you, that means we've almost kind of,
You've exhausted
gotten-
all resources.
Yeah.
What is the penalty when someone doesn't mow their grass?
Well, we have a couple options. I'll let Mr. Pitstick
Yeah, but
explain that.
you have the possibility of a minor misdemeanor per day, which could be multiple charges. Or, as we do, which I haven't taken anybody to court on a criminal case for grass for some time, because it's just easier to placard the property and take care of it ourselves and charge the homeowner than it is to go through the court, because the court is a long, laborious process that it might take 60 days. And when you have grass growing or trash, you wanna get it abated as quickly as possible. And that's the reason that, we have the ordinance in place that we do now.
And the minor misdemeanor stick for grass is enough to keep the grass moving.
Well, yeah, but we very seldom.
I think it's a
Rod-
250 charge.
And
That's more.
can I interject real quickly on the grass, real quick? I'm gonna say 90% of them, I believe, they're foreclosed properties. There's someplace in Las Vegas that owns this thing that we're billing, and they've known it for years. We rake up a lot of delinquencies on it, then we move it over to the land bank, and then we take it through the process, and then someone gets to buy it, put a new house on it. And so a $60,000 property, they buy for 5 or 10, put a house on. They got the delinquency, so it just kinda helps bolster us to move them through
Right.
and to get something done with them, so that we're not still mowing them.
Okay, so what other ordinances are comparable to this in penalty?
The the storage of materials.
Storage materials.
It seems to me that grass growing up in a sidewalk, particularly for somebody that's in a wheelchair, or like the lady said about a stroller or whatever it was, is a little more serious than grass in their yard as far as being a public nuisance or a dangerous situation. I mean, the yard doesn't look good if it's this tall. In fact, mine needs to be moved this week. But, it's not,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, you might have some skunks or something, and you got them anyway.
The question, it doesn't make me any difference what council decides. All I'm saying is the quicker I can abate a nuisance, the better the community is as far as a safety, issue. I mean, same with grass, you know, you wanna get it abated because you don't want skunks and raccoons and mice and ticks and things like that to accumulate in the community. It's a safety issue. We can do the minor misdemeanor, but just understand that there might come a time where we might have to take 2 months or a month to get this thing done.
Quicker the better. Because like today when they took a tour, Joe, did your tour go through town much or just?
Well, we took them to quite a few areas within town. It was not just the industrial park. It was several residential areas in town.
I always think of Schreckengoss place out there. If you took somebody who wanted to come to town here and saw that thing. In fact, I had an interesting call this week. Dennis Orner, which Dale might remember, I went to school with, and his dad built that building, had a grocery store and living quarters there, and he's living in Greenfield now. In fact, he wants a water softener.
And you know that one's on our grant list.
Yeah. Taylor would like to have it. In fact, I think he made an offer to tear it down if they'd give it to him, so I don't know if he would or not.
Okay, we had a motion by Mr. Johnson to amend this. Do we have a second? Okay, so it dies for lack of a second. Now, we did have a motion to approve from Steve and Caleb. So, any discussion about this other than what we've discussed? Roll call, please.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
No.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Johnson,
No.
Schultz,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Motion carried. An ordinance amending, ordinance number 8-2022, an ordinance amending codified ordinance section 93.06, duty to keep sidewalks in repair and clean.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is B, resolution number 31, 2022, first reading.
I'll make a motion to put resolution number R 24-2022 on first reading.
31.
31, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I knew that.
I know why
Sorry.
you said
I
it.
heard you say it.
With that correction, I'll second that.
Okay, discussion. Roll call, please.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Resolution number R 31-2022. A resolution authorizing Joseph J. Denon, City Manager, to enter into a cooperative agreement with the Director of Transportation of the State of Ohio referencing Fayette US 62-14.60, PID number 112796 for urban paving.
Next is resolution number R 25, 2022. It is first reading.
I'll make a motion to put resolution number R 25, 2022 on first reading.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Roll call?
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Resolution number R 25-2022, a resolution authorizing Joseph J. Denon, City Manager of the City of Washington Courthouse, to enter into a contract with John Hinderer Ford for the purchase of a 2022 Ford F-250 pickup truck.
Resolution number R 26, 2022, first reading.
I'll move we put resolution R 26, 2022 on first reading.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Resolution number R 26-2022, a resolution authorizing Joseph J. Denon, City Manager of the City of Washington Courthouse, to enter into a contract with John Hinderer Ford for the purchase of a 2022 Ford F-250 pickup truck.
And resolution number R 27, 2022, first reading.
Go ahead.
I'll move that we put resolution R 27, 2022 on first reading.
Second.
Discussion?
Well, I read this ordinance and I wondered why a F-150 would be so much more expensive than a F-250. And then I realized it was a four-door and you could haul people around in it, right?
Yes.
And you-
It would be nice. Part of the reason that we want to do that, Ted, is to have a vehicle where, like today, we took a lot of people around the community. You know, I can fit a couple people in my vehicle, but it would be nice to have one where we can fit a couple more people on. Today, we rented a van to show an industrial prospect around town, which it would be nice if we had another vehicle that we could actually fit some people in.
Will we pay for this with COVID money?
No, Jim, that is not.
Oh, I thought we could we'd haul the COVID patients in the backseat.
We use
Well, that's
that
what we did
logic
to the
with
fire
a
department.
vehicle or two you
Yeah,
purchase
yeah,
for
well,
fire.
well, it worked the first time.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You can sleep more people in one of those too.
Okay, Rod, roll call, please.
Chrisman.
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Resolution number R 27-2022, a resolution authorizing Joseph J. Denon, City Manager of the City of Washington Courthouse, to enter into contract with John Hinderer Ford for the purchase of a 2022 Ford F-150 pickup truck.
Resolution number R 28, 2022, first reading.
I'll move that we place resolution number R 28, 2022, first reading.
Second.
I'll second that.
Wait a minute, I think
I seconded.
Caleb said.
That's all right.
It was kind of quiet, but I heard.
Yeah, I
You
did
were quiet
second,
about it,
yes.
yeah, Caleb.
Kendra and Caleb. Okay, Rod, or discussion of any kind, roll call.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Resolution number R 28-2022, a resolution authorizing Joseph J. Denon, City Manager of the City of Washington Courthouse, to enter into contract with John Hinderer Ford for the purchase of a 2022 Ford Transit Connect vehicle.
And resolution number R 29, 2022, first reading.
Now, I'll move we put resolution R 29, 2022 on first reading.
Second.
Okay, it's gonna look like Kendra and Steve are the only ones here tonight.
Mhm.
Okay, any discussion?
Is, now, we, on this, chipper, do we have to pay for this right away? Do we need, will this go to a second reading?
Yeah, it'll go
We'll
second
have to have a
reading.
second reading.
Yeah.
Okay, are they holding it for us while we?
Yeah, they got it.
Cause we're 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah,
down
they
the road.
had it, they very nicely had it shipped from Iowa. I don't know if it's physically here yet or not, but they were
It's on
moving
its
it from
way.
Iowa. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
It may already be here by now.
Okay, fantastic, okay.
Ted, did you have something?
Yes, I commend the city for repairing the old one so that
Yes.
we've always got a spare. And we're not motivated to have to buy something no matter how we can get it. So that takes some of the pressure off having that other one as a backup, so. Cause it is probably something that gets some pretty heavy use and it's prone to break down and so on. And it's good to have a backup, especially as much as we use it.
Yeah, Mr. Hawk, you would have thought that as much brush and trees that we have chipped, that there should be none left standing in all the county. Because we chip an amazing amount of wood.
Anything else? Roll call, Rob.
Chrisman?
Yes.
Hawk?
Yes.
Hernandez?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Schultz?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Lynch?
Yes.
Ordinance number resolution number R29-2022, a resolution authorizing Joseph J. Denon, City Manager of the City of Washington Courthouse, to enter into contract with Vermeer for the purchase of a BC 1800 XL brush chipper.
And last one tonight, resolution number R30-2022, first reading.
I'll move that we place resolution number R30-2022 on first reading.
Second.
Caleb, okay. Discussion? Roll call?
Chrisman?
Yes.
Hawk?
Yes.
Hernandez?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Schultz?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Lynch?
Yes.
Resolution number R30-2022, a resolution accepting the recommendation of the Tax Incentive Review Committee, tax incentive agreements.
Thank you. Miscellaneous. Mr. Chrisman, do you have anything this evening?
Not much, can't think of anything.
Okay. Mr. Hawk, what about you?
Well, I just want to commend the leadership in our city and the various ones who have hard decisions to make for tackling hard issues and tackling them in such a way that it's prudent. And we've been through some tough times, and we've always seemed to deal with problems that we have, and I just think that our administration and our people who have positions of decision-making do a good job, and I appreciate that.
Mr. Blair?
No, sir, I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Just briefly, I know that sidewalks are a problem. I have said sidewalks are a problem for a long, long time. But for the sake of speed and doing it quickly, I mean, in the ordinance elsewhere, you would still be able to abate this and bill them within 7 days after serving notice. 7 days is much, much faster than potentially escalating to an M4 when we don't need it to abate other things. Just, to me, if the reason is speed and we don't have a problem enforcing with grass at a minor misdemeanor, I don't see how a potential jail time of 30 days for not having a sidewalk clear is proportionate. And so that is my stance, and so thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hernandez?
I want to thank you to all those folks at the fair. It's a lot of work. The advisors that dedicate their time, the folks who actually maintain the grounds, that create the events, just a lot of work, and it's a lot of fun, and I would hate to never have that. It's a community type event, so a huge thanks to those people who donate their time. The kids learn so much, and they have opportunities that are provided that you don't necessarily learn in other activities, so I love that. And thanks to them.
Very good. Mr. Schultz?
You know, I wanna talk just a little bit about the splash pad that I think Kendra brought up earlier, because, you know, that's a thing, something that's very expensive that we put in there for the community to enjoy, free of charge, by the way, free of charge to enjoy that, and for people to go down there and kind of throw trash around and let their dogs run there and throw rocks and baby diapers laying around and cigarette butts. I understand that we had a crew down there, they worked over 2 hours cleaning that up. And I just want to remind everybody it's free for the community. So respect it, clean up after yourself. If you see somebody violating the area, they should call the city building and let them know about what's going on, or the police department, because, you know, that's something that most communities don't have. That's a nice area. It's a nice thing that we've done for the city. We want to add more to it. We don't want to charge for it to keep it cleaned up, but people need to keep it clean. It's just a few people doing it, a few children I know, but the parents need to watch their children when they're down there. Just don't turn them loose, because I walk through there quite often and talk to people, and they really like it, enjoys it. So let's keep it clean, keep it to a place where you will take your children to. Go down and have a picnic or something, but just pick up after yourself when you're finished. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and I really have nothing, so we will have any motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second it.
And roll call.
Chrisman?
Yes.
Hawk?
Yes.
Hernandez?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Schultz?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Lynch?
Yes,
We adjourn.
we are adjourned.
Good job, Rod.
8:23, thank you, Rod.
Thank you.
Are we all?